Hi, it's Paul Antonelli here. I just wanted to share something with you. Something that we do, and been doing it for years, is basically flying business class around the place. We move around a bit, as you might know. Got a bit of stuff that we're doing. We are always traveling around, and we fly business class. As of to date, I can't tell you how many times I've flown business class. I've never actually paid for a business class ticket. So I've never actually paid for a business class ticket, but I fly business class most of the time. So how does that work? What I want to do in this video is just give you a bit of an overview of what that's about and what that looks like. The first thing is with this process. Now I'm in Australia, and you have to align yourself with an airline, which is a good idea from a points perspective. My airline is Qantas. I've been a Qantas member for many years. I've got a gold status, lifetime silver status, so I use Qantas a lot. So the first part of this process is to align yourself with a specific airline in your location, so that when you build up your points, it doesn't have to be a specific airline, but one that you can use your points with an airline and other associated airlines. So that's the most important thing, first and foremost. So for me, the example I'm going to give you in this video is how I've managed to use my points to fly business class and with Qantas, and then you can get the gist of the idea of how that works. And the way that you basically get to fly using the points that you've accumulated is to use the points to either upgrade to business class or to actually book tickets. They call them classic rewards, to book classic rewards tickets. So that's how it works. Now what I'm going to talk about is a little bit of the outcomes, because we've just booked, we're going overseas for 6 months or so in the middle of the year, and we've just booked a full range of flights there and back, all business class, using our points. So one of the things about Qantas is that they have a round the world ticket for business class, obviously for economy, premium economy, business and first class, and you can book, there's a whole bunch of rules around it, but effectively for 318,000 points you can book a whole bunch of business class flights. Because we're very flexible about where we go, we just wanted to end up in Europe somewhere, and our timings, we can hunt and find the appropriate reward seats, which enables us to sort of round. So Qantas is great because of this around the world ticket for 318,000 points. We booked 2 of these tickets yesterday. And to give you an idea, the reason I really wanted to share some information, the value that you get from this process is insane. For example, we booked, I think it was 6 legs. We're flying through to, I think it's Hong Kong, Manila, into Germany. There's another internal flight, then Mumbai, then back to Perth. A whole bunch of, I think there's 6 legs on these tickets each. Any one of those legs would be worth about 4,000 to 5,000 Australian dollars. So roughly it's somewhere between $25,000 to $30,000 of business class flights for 318,000 points, which is pretty serious bang for buck. The only thing that you've got to pay out of pocket is your airport taxes and surcharge, which for one ticket worked out at about 1,000 Australian dollars. So it's fairly minimal. The value is basically, we booked these flights, somewhere worth around $25,000 to $30,000 as a minimum if we were to pay for them, and it only cost us $1,000 to do that. So it's pretty cool. And the only thing that we use points for, because we accumulate points, and I'm going to go through how you go about accumulating points in business, what the best approach is. The only thing we use the points for is either to upgrade to business class or to book business class seats, nothing else. Never use it for economy tickets, it's not worth it. Premium economy, not really worth it. You don't use it to buy things, you don't use it to do all sorts of other nonsense. The only thing we use points for is to book business class flights around the world or upgrade to business class using points. That's the only thing. And that's because you get the best bang for your points bucks, if that makes sense. I've looked at all the other options, it doesn't really work that well. The upside is if you can groove this process in, you can effectively travel more business class without actually forking out the dollars to do that. And this is leveraging what you spend in your business. Just going to talk a little bit about the best way to go about that process. Okay, so the first thing I talked about is pick an airline. I picked Qantas, fantastic. And then a credit card. So a lot of the way I've built points is through different credit cards. For the situation that I looked at, Amex, American Express is a really good card for building points up. And so you get yourself a credit card. We've got different companies, different businesses, and I think we've got 3 Amex cards for 3 different companies that we run and operate. And so an Amex card, and they're a bit like a charge card really, they don't have a limit. You don't have to pay them off for each month, but effectively we pay all our cards off each month, and you can use them to do all sorts of things. It's got travel insurance wrapped into it, all sorts of stuff. But the key driver for us in relation to getting hold of these cards is because of the points that we can accumulate. So step one is find an airline. Step two is a credit card where you can generate points that you can then put into your frequent flyer program. So that's a really good way to go about it. So Qantas, and for us, Amex, and there's a whole bunch of different American Express cards. There's this one, there's that one, there's this one. Use a corporate charge card, seems to work really well. And so then you get a charge card, and then you might have staff members or your partner also might have one of those cards as well. So you've set up, you've got the airline you want to fly with and the partners, you've got yourself a card so you can accumulate points. So how do you go about accumulating points? What's the most effective way of doing that? All right, to accumulate points, it's looking at everything that you spend. Now this is more about business owners, people in business. Everything that you spend, could you end up paying for it using this American Express card? And a lot of times you'll say, well, that's not going to be that easy because a lot of businesses don't take American Express and all that sort of stuff. But there are a phenomenal amount of businesses that do take American Express, and you can build up a lot of points. I think on my last look, on every month, just a standard spending across all the businesses, build up about 50,000 points every month. 50,000 points, yeah. So effectively, and just looked at ways that we can leverage the credit card for payment processes. And sometimes people will say, yeah, but if I use my Amex card, you get charged an extra 1 or 2%. Look, that might be the case. If that's the case, it doesn't matter. I'm not really bothered by that because that becomes a tax deduction because it's a business expense. And effectively, I know that the value I get at the other end from accumulating the points is way more than any cost that I've incurred in getting the points. If that makes sense. The next thing is you get yourself a credit card, lots of them. So it needs to align with your chosen airline, and then you've got the card. And then you start looking at all the places and all the things that you spend money on now that you can divert through to your credit card. And so there's really obvious things you can do with your card. Obviously fuel, if you're using fuel, any expenses you run, you go to cafes, if you're taking clients out, you might be buying what I find is any of the larger chains, groups, merchants, retailers, any of the large ones that take Amex. They're pretty much standard. And so then you use Amex cards for all that sort of stuff. And so that's all incidental spending that takes place. The other thing to look at is subscriptions. I don't know about your business, but for my businesses, I've got subscriptions to lots of different software applications and this and that. We run all our businesses heavily relying on some of the good tech out there. And so we have lots of subscriptions, monthly subscriptions. It's rare that they don't take Amex. And so basically I use all of those subscriptions on the Amex card. That's another thing to do. The other thing that you can do is sometimes organizations don't take Amex, but you can still go around that by putting in place a payment system. So for example, PayPal, which is a payment system, I can set up, and I have set up, I've got a couple of different PayPal accounts. You can set up your Amex card as your preferred payment. And any time that you're paying for something using PayPal, it'll go onto your card, which will accumulate points. So another way of actually using your Amex card, if organizations don't take the Amex, is to use a payment platform. There's a ton of them, Payoneer, there's PayPal, but there's so many of these payment platforms where you can attach your Amex card to or your credit card to, and it becomes the preferred method of payment. You build up points. So even where organizations or companies that you might use or suppliers but don't take Amex, you can still use an Amex card by putting it into one of these payment platforms. And the example I gave you was obviously PayPal. And so what happens is then you start looking at everything that you can pay using this. We have offshore staff working with us in different locations. I've set it up in a way that their payments effectively go through a platform and they get paid, and it gets paid by the Amex card, which is really good, and I just pay off the card. Now, a big one that a lot of people aren't necessarily aware of is that you can pay here in Australia, and it might apply in other locations as well, you can pay for your tax obligations using a credit card. Yeah, been doing this for years. So GST, so for all our BAS, business activity statements, activity that we do every 3 months, all the payments, all the GST payments, all payments run through an Amex card. There's a portal, a payment portal partner that the tax office uses, and basically you can pay by credit card. And they charge you a percentage for it, but you do get the points. Some of the times the points aren't one for one. Mostly with Amex, you spend $1, you get a point. On some of the government ones like the ATO, tax office, those sorts of ones, you spend $1, you get half a point. So $2 to get 1 point. Still a lot of points. So one of the big things that I do is I pay all my tax obligations, GST, BAS, even my income tax. I all pay for it by the credit card. We're making a lot of money every year through the different businesses. Obviously we're paying tax. And so even paying the tax, we can use this system to build up points. So in a typical year and so you're just looking for everywhere that you can use the Amex card to accumulate points, and you'd be amazed. So if you look at how much you're spending every month and you're running it all through the card, or as much as you can through the card, you'll start building up points. I think typically every year we build up 700,000 points just on normal sort of trading and what's going on and what we're doing. So you build up a lot of points, yeah. Because we haven't traveled for a while because of COVID, we're just starting to get back into travel. We've built up millions of points, got millions of points now, and so now we're just looking at using some of these points for moving around a bit. That's the next phase. Now, so that's the process. It's very cool, and it's just a really good way to take advantage of what you spend. It's really leveraging. You're already spending the money anyway, and what you spend to get a benefit that I think it's a substantial benefit. It's a great benefit, and it saves you a lot of money, so you don't have to fork it out. I know business class and first class, and we have flown a lot of business class and first class. If it's someone else paying for it, like you're working for an organisation and the company's paying for it, no big deal. But if it's your business and it's coming out of your pocket, I go, I've got other things, better things I could do with my money than pay for seats. So this is a way that I can leverage what I have to travel at that. It's great traveling in business and first class without actually having to fork out the dollars. Use that money to do something that gives me some real benefit. So that's a real process to look at how you can effectively fly for free with business class, first class, using money that you spend already. It's just a really good way to leverage. And so and recapping that out, so the aim is you align yourself with an airline that has all sorts of partners, get yourself an Amex card or a card linked in that can create points, and make sure the points are higher. A lot of the Master and Visa cards you always need $2 spent for every point. Amex does 1 for 1 for most of your spends, so you get more bang for your spend with an Amex card. And then look at where you can use the Amex card everywhere to accumulate points, and you'd be amazed. Subscriptions, obviously, I've rattled through a whole bunch of things. And then once you built up your points, you just have fun and you travel around. As I mentioned before, with Qantas, we've just booked these flights for both myself and my wife. Around the world ticket was 636,000 points for the both of us, and the total cost in taxes was just over $2,000. And those flights, if we paid for them, would be somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000 if I had to fork out the cash for that. So incredible bang for buck. The other thing, and I hadn't touched on this before, I just wanted to share, I obviously fly within Australia a lot, and this might happen in your location as well. And what I use my points for is upgrading from economy to business. Yeah, and the easiest way to do that is obviously because I've got a reasonable frequent flyer status. Most flights I can just request to upgrade, and I get an upgrade most of the time. And that upgrade's pretty good bang for buck. Typically it's 25,000 points. And that's the other thing I use my points for. So upgrading from economy to business, when I'm flying, when I'm moving around, I use points. And then for booking business class flights around the world and getting really good bang for buck. Because in business, there's lots of things that you have, stuff that's flowing through, you're spending money, whether it's on staff, on systems, on this, on that, on processes. There's so many costs you'd incur, expenses you incur in your business. Obviously, we've got to pay tax, we've got to pay the GST, BAS, VAT, all that sort of stuff. So you look at how you can accumulate all that outflow of money to accumulate points, which enables you to travel in luxury where you want to go for little or no spend at all. So that's a great hack. Get into it. I just wanted to share this with you as we've just booked some flights ourselves through to Europe for a bit of a stint. We're going to be spending some time over in Europe and other locations outside of Australia, and I thought it'd be a good thing to share. Okay, enjoy. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch up with you in the next video. Ciao for now.